Welcome to the Fantasy Football Endgame with your hosts, Pierre Camus and Chris Moncano.
Welcome to the Fantasy Football Endgame. We're here to help you win at fantasy football each and every week, and that starts with lineup advice. Here to talk about wide receivers for Week 5. My name is Pierre. With me is Chris. Chris, 2020, no surprise. We have some games that are very much in doubt. Not going to get too much into the details of the who and the what, but Patriots, the Titans, there's some situations going on. How are you feeling this week as opposed to last week when we had to kind of scramble at the last minute with our lineups?
I just feel like this is how it's going to be every week. It's going to be like this every week, right? There's going to be a team, a player, a scare, whatever, every single week pretty much. It's just the way it is this year. It's, just going to have to get used to it and adjust the best you can and hope you dodge as many landmines as you can, because there's going to be probably every single week we're going to deal with this.
Yeah, we'll just call it the new normal. I mean, that's how it is. We're going to have to deal with it. There's no other choice. Now, we'll try to get you the latest information. And, of course, on Sunday morning, right before kickoff, approximately 2 hours before kickoff, we're live, right? Game Day Live. We're here to talk about injuries and last-minute changes, anything that's breaking to help you set your lineup the right way before the games actually start. But right now, here's what we know. Cam Newton, it doesn't look like he's going to play for obvious reasons. Stephon Gilmore, not going to play. All right, so there goes your starting quarterback and your best cover corner, probably the best cornerback right now in the league. So that's going to have some impact on the game if it is played. Right now, it's scheduled to be played. I think they pushed it back to the late afternoon, but right now it's on. So then let me ask this. Start with a guy like Jeudy, who, if you saw last Thursday night game, that was against the Jets, sure. All right, but you take away your best cover corner, Stephon Gilmore. Is Jeudy somebody who, last week, he had that big play, and it's kind of a fluky play, but he's their best guy. He's their target, right? Sutton's out. There's not a whole lot else. Fant is going to be out. Looks like he's doubtful right now. So you'd think this might be a good spot for Jeudy. Do you think without Gilmore, he's a must start?
I still can't say he's a must start, because even last week, he wasn't, Rippin wasn't like just force feeding him the ball. He had that great, he mossed the corner, right, with that great touchdown. But he only had one other catch the rest of the night. So it's not like Rippin is just looking for him. Now, I like him, and I certainly think with Gilmore out, it bumps him up. But I view him more as like a wide receiver 4 with some upside. So I wouldn't say he's a must start, but I think you can start him. Decent floor and plenty of upside as well. So that's where I'm at with Jeudy.
I'm surprised it's that low. I mean, I could see like low end wide receiver 3. I get you don't want to put him, up ahead of other receivers on better teams, obviously with better quarterbacks. But yeah, I mean, to me, like I said, it's going to be him and then Tim Patrick, who I guess you could start if you're desperate. But I mean, he had a pretty good game too. The thing is, Patriots, we think, okay, you don't want to start receivers against the Patriots. So far, the Patriots, even though their defense has done well, they're actually allowing the 7th most fantasy points per game to wide receivers, and that was with Gilmore. So I think there's an opportunity here. If I have Jeudy, I'm probably starting him. That's me personally as my third guy. What about Tim Patrick then? It sounds like you're kind of not interested there.
Actually, I probably prefer Tim Patrick.
Really?
He seemed to be Rippin's guy. Right, he seemed to be Rippin's guy. He's 6 catches, 113 yards, a touchdown last week. He seemed to be the guy Rippin was looking for most often. So, I mean, maybe that changes. It was a short week, first NFL start. It wasn't like he had all week to get ready, right? Very, very little practice time, way more time to prepare. Maybe it'll be different this week. I'm not anti-Jeudy, like say don't play Jeudy. I'm just going off what I saw last week, and it seemed like Rippin was looking for Patrick more than he was looking for Jeudy. Now we know, Jeudy has that big play ability. So, like I said, I think the upside is there, so I'm not against it. But I would feel a little bit better about Tim Patrick. Not that I feel great about Tim Patrick either.
Yeah, you don't feel great, but like I say, if you're looking for a streamer, Judy's going to be owned everywhere, but Patrick is actually a nice guy to plug in your lineup this week because, again, like I said, Noah Fant looks like he's not going to play. Hamler not going to play. Sutton's on IR. That's it, right? It's going to be those two guys are going to get all the targets. So to me, Patrick might be a nice guy to kind of flex this week. Now on the other side, guy that you think would be normal every week, wide receiver 2, if not 3, is Julian Edelman. He's been lost the last couple of weeks. Of course, he had that ridiculous, I don't know if you call it a drop. It wasn't really a drop. It was like, here you go, take the ball for a pick 6. So he looked off. He hasn't done much. Cam's not playing. So does Edelman just go straight to the bench?
Oof. I don't know if he goes straight to the bench, but I'm certainly not feeling good about Julian Edelman, especially with the quarterback situation there. I mean, obviously, it's going to be Jarrett Stidham, right? They tried Brian Hoyer for a half. That didn't work out too well. Not that Stidham was much better, but at the same time, in fairness, Julian Edelman did him no favors, right? I mean, man, he looked awful out there. And, hey, everybody's going to have a night like that. It's not a knock on Edelman. Everybody's going to have a night like that. I certainly expect him to be better. But, I don't really want any part of this passing game right now outside of James White until Cam Newton comes back. I'm just not going to feel good about him until Cam Newton comes back. So, yeah, I don't really want to start Julian Edelman this week, no.
Yeah, I don't have too much Edelman, but the one league, non-best ball league where I do have him, he's on my bench, and I didn't put anybody great in instead of him either. I don't remember who, but it wasn't like a super appealing option. So to me, I'd rather have Jeudy or Tim Patrick. I think I would put Tim Patrick ahead of him. So, and then as far as AJ Brown, this is another game. Well, let's just kind of cross our fingers and hope the Titans ever play again. But with nothing official yet, but he should be back if they play in week 5. This is a player that you probably drafted as your second wide receiver, and you really want to play him. Buffalo is not a good matchup, and then there's all these question marks around the game itself. So what's your situation if you're a Brown owner? Are you keeping him in until you hear the game is canceled or postponed, or are you keeping him on the bench unless you hear that it's a full go?
I'm benching him this week even if they play, and it's for a couple of reasons. Number one, coming back from a knee injury, you always have to worry about how many snaps is he going to play? Is he going to be limited? And then number 2, Tre'Davious White is like a top 3, at worst top 5 cover corner. And with no Corey Davis, because Corey Davis is one of the players who is on the COVID IR, he's going to have all his attention, right? Tre'Davious White's not going to cover anybody else. And A.J. Brown does not go to the slot very often, very rarely. I think he plays like 80% of his snaps on the outside. So he's going to play the majority of his snaps, however many they are, against Tre'Davious White. So coming off a knee injury, worried about him being limited in a really tough matchup, and the game may not even happen. No, there's no way I'm starting A.J. Brown this week. No chance.
Yeah, sad to say, but if that game is a go, then you might just want to back off the whole Titans offense, except for Derrick Henry, of course, who you'd have to play. But it's going to be a rough time for them going against Buffalo anyways. Keep him benched until further notice. Let me talk to you about Atlanta and how I'm greatly disappointed. This is a team that should have one of the best pass offenses in the game. They did for a couple of weeks. And now last week, it's like, I don't even know if I can trust anything on that offense. Julio's clearly hurt. I mean, that's goes without saying, but hurt more than what they let on or more than, what they like to believe. Calvin Ridley, there's got to be something wrong. There's no way you can explain how he's in that game and doesn't catch the ball. All right, and then Russell Gage, ever since week 2, I think week 3, he got a concussion. Hasn't done anything even since he came back. Maybe it's still affecting him. We saw that happen with Brandon Cooks last year, right? Came back and played, but just wasn't the same. So are you backing off of this? I mean, obviously Ridley and Julio you're playing them, but talk a guy like Russell Gage, who looked like he was kind of going to be firmly in that wide receiver 3, kind of tier. He was putting up 100 yards in a game. What do you do with him? Because going against Carolina, and then talk to me about Olamide Zaccheaus, who all of a sudden looks like Atlanta's leading receiver. I mean, is he somebody that you go to if Julio or Ridley or both are out?
Yeah, I mean, wow. Who would have thought? 2020, man. 2020, here we are. Usually Falcons, you just plug and play, don't even worry about it, right? Ridley, obviously, you got to play him. if he plays. I just think that was just one of those games. It wasn't like he wasn't getting targeted. Him and Ryan just weren't on the same page for whatever reason that night. Maybe really wasn't 100%. I don't know. Julio, I don't even know if I could play him if he plays. I don't think he's going to play anyways, because you can't run the risk of him only playing a half, only playing a few snaps, whatever. So I think even if he plays, he's out. Now, Russell Gage and Zaccheaus, I mean, they're okay. But here's the thing. Like, you think, oh, Carolina, terrible defense. Well, Carolina has actually been sneaky good against passing, against passing attacks. Like, they're awful against the running game, but they're pretty good in the secondary. They've only have yet to give up 200 yards to a team receiving wise. So, I mean, they're okay, I guess, because they're Matt Ryan's, only options here, really. But I don't feel great about it. It's not as good a matchup as people probably think. I'm worried that, what if Ridley has one of those 10 catches, 160-yard, 2-touchdown games, and Gage and Zaccheaus are just, afterthoughts? Like, you're taking a lot of risk by playing these guys. So I'd prefer outside of Ridley and basically Todd Gurley, I don't really want any of these receivers this week.
Yeah, I mean, hard to believe, but it's true. And, really important what you mentioned. It's easy to kind of give like a surface glance at the opponents at Carolina. Well, they're not that good, especially on defense. You have to look deeper because, again, the run defense has been god-awful. Their pass defense has actually performed better than expected. We thought after week one that they were going to get toasted in the secondary. They haven't, right? Their wide receiver defense has actually been much better the last couple of weeks than we would expect. So there's been some letdown performances. And it doesn't look like any of these receivers are healthy, honestly. Gage, I have to keep him benched, as much as I love him as a receiver in fantasy, and he was one of my preseason sleepers, one of the guys I was looking at, paid off huge, but he's clearly not right. So he's on my bench, right? For me, end game here, I'm keeping all three of those top guys benched until I see and hear that they are as close to 100% as possible. And Julio is not 100%. So I have to keep him benched even if he plays. Zaccheaus, if you need somebody to fill in as a streamer, I'm interested. I'm also interested in Darius Slayton, but only because they're playing Dallas. Dallas, we know how bad Seattle's secondary has been. Dallas is the second worst. Obviously, those teams kind of racked up numbers against each other. Darius Slayton, somebody who you kind of have to start based on the matchup here?
Oh, yeah. I actually like all the Giants' passing options because Dallas, that defense is horrible, and Dallas is playing at an extremely fast pace. They're averaging 77 plays per game. NFL average is 65. So they're running about 12 more plays per game than the NFL average. They're running a lot of plays. So I expect that the Giants will go above expectations on the passing game just because of the matchup against that terrible defense. So, yeah, Slayton to me, he's got to be in your lineup. Tate to me is a great PPR wide receiver 3 with upside. I know he's been disappointing this year. And we'll talk about the other options in other episodes. In our tight end one, because I do like Evan Ingram, and our quarterback one because I actually like Daniel Jones this week. So, yeah, I like the whole Giants passing attack this week. So, yeah, I think if you got Slayton, you roll him out with confidence.
Yeah, this is a banner week. You're going for all the Giants. I wasn't even going to bring up Tate, right, because I've been out on him. But I guess the Dallas defense might be the cure, right? Miami defense might be the cure for the 49ers offense. Now, Deebo is back, and he was involved last week. Brandon Aiyuk has been pretty impressive. But here's the problem. Neither guy is really seeing a lot of volume, at least not yet. Here's the other problem. We don't know who the quarterback's going to be. It literally could be any of 3 guys, right? Mullins has started, then he got benched. Beathard came in, didn't look like much better. Jimmy G's practicing, but he's limited. So flip a coin and decide. Actually, no, you need a 3-sided coin. There's 3 guys that could play, at quarterback. So can you go with either of them as far as Samuel or Aiyuk against Miami? Because the matchup's good, but there's just a lot of question marks.
I was actually encouraged by what I saw from Deebo Samuel in his first game of the season. I think you could feel good about rolling out Deebo Samuel. I mean, you drafted him, assuming when you drafted, if you drafted closer to the season after his injury, maybe you got him on the cheap. but most of the offseason he was going as like a wide receiver 2. I think you can roll him out and feel pretty confident. I also feel pretty confident that Jimmy G is going to play this week. If he's practicing in a limited fashion on Wednesday, that means he's probably trending towards playing, especially as bad as Mullins and Beathard or Bethard, however you pronounce it, was last week. They were both really bad. So I expect they'll go back to Jimmy G. Aiyuk, again, I mean, I keep saying don't play Aiyuk, and then he gets a 38-yard running touchdown where he hurdles a defender, right, and makes me look bad. But can he keep doing stuff like that? Like, are you putting Brandon Aiyuk in your lineup and hoping he runs for touchdowns? Like, is that why you're starting Brandon Aiyuk every week? I mean,
maybe he's done it twice.
I mean, right? Like, that's like, to me, that's not good enough of a reason for me to start him. And obviously with Deebo back, I think it's just going to take away from his targets in the passing game. So I don't feel great about Aiyuk. If you want to start him, yeah, go for it, whatever. I do feel really good about Deebo, though.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, if I do put Aiyuk in my lineup, it's for one reason, because after watching that highlight where he hurdled the guy and got into the end zone, like after that I was done. Like I dropped the remote and I was like, okay, I'm going to order my jersey right now. Just for that play, right? I want him on my team. But yeah, I don't know if that'll happen every week. Last one here before we get to our booms and the busts. Let's talk about Jamison Crowder, your boy. He's back, and sure enough, right away, the lead receiver, 7 catches, 104 yards. He's played in 2 games this year. In both games, he's gotten 7 catches, over 100 yards. But Joe Flacco is the quarterback. You still in on Crowder?
I don't know. I mean, I guess you kind of have to be if you're going to be on anybody on this offense. I guess that's got to be Crowder. But from historically, yeah. Well, and historically, Flacco's not a dink and dunker guy, right? Now we haven't really seen Flacco play significant snaps in at least a year, if not longer. So maybe he's become a dink and dunker guy, or maybe this offense is going to force him to be a dink and dunker guy because who does he have to throw deep to, really? But it does make me a little concerned for Crowder, just because it's like, what's his usage going to be with Flacco? But at the same time, I think in PPR leagues, you can still view him as like a wide receiver 3, and hope that he still gets peppered with targets. So,
yeah, even on bad teams, there's got to be production somewhere. So, yeah, I'm not against it. And going to Arizona, they're going to have to throw the ball, right? And that secondary isn't amazing. So, yeah, I don't mind starting Crowder. If you want a really deep sleeper for the Jets at receiver, someone that's so deep you probably won't even recognize, check out my waiver wire video because I did mention him. No, it's not my boy Braxton Berrios, who I love for obvious reasons, but somebody else. All right, let's get to our booms. Who you got at wide receiver this week who's going to go off?
Yeah, I'm going out to Minnesota, Justin Jefferson. He's a real deal. Like, there's no doubt about it, right? He's a real deal. He's in that Diggs role. They get Las Vegas. Las Vegas has no one in the secondary that can cover him or Adam Thielen. I think it's just going to be a monster day for both. So, yeah, if you picked up Justin Jefferson after his big game, and if you were like me and you're like, well, I'm going to wait and see how this week goes, it's time. It's time to unleash him. You can just start him and feel great about it.
Yeah, Jefferson, I mean, he's going to be an every week must start no matter what. I actually randomly uncovered interesting facts in the Vikings because you think in a good matchup, that passing game maybe has some juice. They're only throwing it to 2 guys. The tight ends are doing literally nothing. Irv Smith is doing nothing. Kyle Rudolph barely anything. But only 2 receivers, Thielen and Jefferson, have even more than 4 catches on the season so far after 4 games. They're not throwing to anybody else. So Jefferson's going to be a target hog.
Yeah,
I'm going to go with the guy. Uh-huh.
I said Las Vegas, but they're playing Seattle, which is
that's even better.
Even better. I don't know why I said Vegas. Seattle, which is, all receivers just crush Seattle.
Yeah, Seattle at a historic pace right now. We'll see if that lasts, but yeah. I'm going to go with Laviska Shenault, a guy that, I think is going to keep growing in this offense. Had 4 targets each of the first 2 weeks, made a couple of big plays here and there, wasn't super involved. 6 the last 2 weeks. Even with Chark back, they're still getting him involved. He was the leading receiver, 86 yards. And so I think that Shenault going against possibly Vernon Hargreaves on the other side, yes, please, may I have some. All right, so this is a game where it may not be super high scoring, but against Houston, I don't see the whole, Bill O'Brien is gone, so now we're going to become a monster team thing happening. So I'm not too worried about their defense coming alive all of a sudden. So I like Chanel as a fringe wide receiver 3. All right, let's get to our busts. Who is going to let us down?
Well, I already talked about him, and if you heard the way I was talking about him, you probably know how I feel, and that's A.J. Brown. I already talked about all the reasons why. Tre'Davious White, no Corey Davis, coming off a knee injury. Lots of things here against A.J. Brown. I know you drafted him as your wide receiver 2. You've barely gotten anything out of him. You can't wait to put him in your lineup, but you're going to have to wait one more week. Even if they play, you're going to have to wait one more week.
Yeah, as if there wasn't a reason already to keep him benched, but yeah, just don't. And get controversial here. Coming off a huge monster game, it will be his best game of the season. I guarantee Odell Beckham will not score 3 touchdowns again. He probably won't score any touchdowns because Indy defense is really that good. All right. Cleveland, yeah, they put up all those numbers against the Cowboys because the Cowboys defense really is that bad. All right. They're going to the total opposite end of the spectrum here. And if he gets Xavier Rhodes, remember, Pro Bowl corner, struggled, before leaving Minnesota last year, wasn't the same guy. He's back. He's back better than ever. So if he's all over Odell Beckham, and then this offense isn't going to be the same without Chubb. I'll tell you, they're not going to move the ball as easily, get into bad situations, right? Maybe, negative situations as far as down and distance. So obviously you won't probably bench Beckham. But you know what? I traded him right after last week. Not a coincidence, in my Dynasty League. Got a pretty good haul for him. So, yeah. All right, guys. That does it for wide receiver. Starts it for week 5. Check out all our other episodes. If you hadn't hit the subscribe button already, do it right now. You don't want to miss. Every week we're here to help you out. Our end game, as always, is to help you win. Thanks for watching.